All right, Jim, I think we've got about 50 or so folks in the waiting room ready to get going. So whenever you're ready, we can kick this thing off.
Good stuff.
All right, I see the numbers rapidly climbing. I want to thank everybody for joining today for the Career Site Takedown. This is going to be provided and powered by Happy Dance as well as Gem. I'll let Jim introduce himself here in a moment, but for those of you that I've not met, my name is Vince. I lead our solutions team here at Gem. If you're not familiar with Gem, we're actually an all-in-one CRM platform that heavily relies on an excellent career site partnership, which is why we have a really great hand-in-hand relationship with Happy Dance, who is top of the notch gold standard in regards to providing those career sites for candidate attraction, brand management, and of course, a really good experience. So that's just a little bit about me. What I'll do is I'll actually turn the microphone over to Jim. And I know it says Brian Adams on the screen here, but Brian's a little bit unwell today, so we've got Jim filling in. So thank you all so much for attending. Again, the numbers keep climbing, so we will go ahead and take things away. Let me pass things over to Jim for a quick intro, and we will go ahead and kick off.
Thanks, Vince. Yeah, I am not Brian Adams, our CEO. I am Jim Taylor, filling in for Brian. So yeah, I'm part of the Happy Dance team. We are a career site platform provider, specifically built for mid-market and enterprise companies. But I'd say we're a little bit more than that. We're a team of employer brand, tech, web design specialists who obviously really care about candidate experience and customer experience. Before we became a technology company, I've been actually working with Brian for 17 years this week, actually. So my anniversary since I was at that employer brand. I was at an employer branding agency before building out Happy Dance with Brian. We were obviously designing careers websites for over a decade within that agency, and I think we obviously saw employer brands were being let down by clunky tech. Candidates couldn't find what they needed. Talent teams were locked out of making simple updates. It just didn't work. So that's why we built Happy Dance. So yeah, we obviously create high performing, fully branded, lightning fast careers websites for global enterprises. So I'll show you some examples in a second, but yeah, obviously partnering with Gem, started to deeper integrate in terms of our apply overlay and connecting talent communities and much more to give our customers all the tools they need to be able to attract and convert talent.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for the intro there, Jim. Thank you so much for everybody for joining. The agenda for today, Jim's actually going to share his screen, explain a little bit about the organization Happy Dance, what they do and provide, as well as go through a few submitted career site examples. We'll go through a few different live examples, what's working, what we could see improvements on, and ultimately show you some end states as well. I will be manning the chat. So if any of you have any questions, if there's any Q&A, please feel free to type those in. We'll get you some responses either in real time or as follow-up. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with a couple of different examples. And by all means, any questions or chat that you might want to pop in, just feel free to do so and we'll get to those directly.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, that's coming through.
All good. Yeah, I guess just to add what I was saying there, obviously what makes us different is how we combine our cutting edge tech with our what we call our concierge level service. So we don't just provide the tools, you're getting a team from Happy Dance being able to help you bring that to life, your EVP, your employer brand, and really get the best out of your career site platform, enriching things like your job descriptions and adding personalization and giving them all the control that they need with the CMS system. So that's, yeah, just a little bit about us. I think I'll dive into a small handful of website examples, just I guess to set the tone and the bar of what we do, and then yeah, let's dive into some critiquing. So I guess the first one I'll pull up is one of my favorites is obviously Domino's. Huge pizza fan. Obviously when Domino's first came to us, they their career site was really slow and difficult to content manage. It took around 27 seconds to load a job description, and we know that if a career site job page isn't loading within 3 seconds, then that's going to have a knock-on effect in terms of candidates drop off, but also the fact that speed and experience of web pages now is an SEO ranking factor. So there's signals that are being sent to Google saying you're giving candidates a poor experience from that respect, especially when it comes to things like mobile. So if a site isn't responsive, like all of our sites are obviously designed and built mobile first. If they're not reactive and responsive to a device, if they're on a really poor 3G connection, then it's just a really poor candidate experience in general. I'll give you a quick whistle-stop tour of Domino's. When they actually first came to us, it wasn't a case of a redesign, it was a migration. So we had to keep the site looking and feeling exactly the way it used to. But the data was telling us that they had huge drop-off on their homepage because they were linking to other areas, as in other websites, like biz.domino's and their corporate websites. So they were losing candidates by taking them somewhere else. And I think in some of the examples we'll show you later is when that happens, that's where you can find drop-off, which again is a ranking signal. It's that page experience. If a candidate isn't finding what they need from a page and they leave, it'll send that signal back to Google, and then they'll adjust your rankings. So when we redesigned Domino's to ensure that a lot of that content that we found elsewhere was brought through to the site, so things like employee stories and some of these great videos, they were found on Facebook as an example. They weren't actually living on the career site, and all of these call to actions now take them deeper within the career site. What was interesting was when you obviously search for the types of jobs that they do, you couldn't find things like, you couldn't find them organically for pizza maker jobs as an example. They didn't have these types of landing pages. So for pizza maker jobs in the US, if I search with that in Google, they were fighting it against the job boards as well as competitors like Papa John's. We noticed they were paying through the nose with ads. They were paying for paid media for Google ads to appear on #1 in the spot, but those Google ads were just taking them to the homepage. It wasn't taking them to specific landing pages based on the candidate's search intent. Now that the fact that they've got these persona landing pages all built around the day in the life of what it's like to do this role and the benefits and the jobs themselves, employee stories, so they can really understand what it's like to work in that organization, they're now appearing on page 1 of Google, and they're beating their competitors. So it's that type of stuff we'll do with our customers, is look for not just bringing their EVP to life, but also understanding their personas, the candidates, what they're thinking, what they need, what they want to see and hear, because they're going to spend 7 hours doing the research before they actually apply. You need to ensure that you give them all the answers they need and keep them on the career site. And things like this, so they've got they've got billions of franchisees, but being able to find a franchisee in a specific location and being able to see those jobs within that specific store and apply, that was really important to Domino's. So yeah, one of my favorites there, multilingual site, and they obviously have internal careers as well. Just a few quick other examples. Another favorite of mine, Canva. Canva, as you know, are a design product themselves, a tool. So they were not only creative, but they allowed us to push the boundaries. So what they have from a corporate perspective, it looks slightly different from a candidate's perspective in terms of the look and feel and the UI, but pushing the boundaries of what they have from a brand and an employer brand. But they do a great job at talking about like the give and the get and the culture and what it's like to thrive within the organization, the impact, purpose, and the belonging. They've got great employee stories. They talk about career growth and opportunity, what it's like to work in specific teams. So we can go to a team page and look at what it's like to thrive within those teams, testimonials. There's lots of great content, jobs that are really much more engaging than your sort of traditional jobs. So lovely looking site and lots of great content and digestible content as well. What I mean by digestible is it's readable, it's easy to read, simple paragraphs, works well, looks great on the likes of mobile when you're actually going through that content, and really easy to crawl and find jobs, and yeah, giving the candidates everything they need. We work with obviously organizations like Pinterest as an example. Again, their look and feel, their brand is a little not as playful as much. They had obviously really strict brand guidelines. So it was a challenge to be able to bring something quite unique to life in Pinterest. But in terms of like that, the look and feel of the site, like the structure and the content does a great job in terms of employee stories, what's like life at behind the scenes, they've integrated Instagram, and then obviously joining the talent community. We tend to always end with a talent community because that's the opportunity to, if they haven't found what they're looking for. And then last but not least, I'll just quickly show you National Grid, one of our latest developments. I think this is obviously containing a lot more motion within the site itself. So it's really engaging from a careers perspective, really nice content, well structured, talent community to finish. And then one of our latest features is obviously our conversational navigation. Not necessarily a chatbot, it's more of a signposting to be able to find content that they're looking for. So what's the culture like? It'll take me to a conversation where it will find content throughout the site. So it's not a chatbot as in it's been programmed to answer specific questions. It literally trawls every word within the career site and finds relevance and content that might be of interest based on that query. So it's found that the culture is obviously aligned to like the Great for Good, which is obviously what their culture is all about. You can see here, previously it's got my fingerprint, so it knows I was looking for engineering jobs. It's giving me employee stories around those types of jobs and team pages and benefits. And then I'll say to any remote, and then it understands my historical context. So yeah, that's where we've tried to help candidates find content easier than obviously having to go through some form of a navigation and trying to find that the content that they're looking for. They can simply ask the AI and it will direct them and give them those signposts. So yeah, a few examples there, a little bit about us. Should we dive into some of the sites that have been put forward for critique, Vince?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great plan. I appreciate you walking through some of the different examples that Happy Dance has created or helped create. I think one important thing to call out is that all of the examples that Jim has gone through, whether it's Domino's, whether it's Pinterest or Canva, they're all unique experiences. A lot of providers, whether it's a career page or a career website provider or a CRM that's even providing your career page, they're all very templatized. If I go to one website, it's going to look exactly the same as another. What's really important is that you have that unique experience for the candidate. Not only does it excite them, but it helps tell the story and inspire them to take action. That's the whole point. We want people to know about you, know what they're getting into, and then have easy access to information when they need it, whether it's the formal application or like Jim has just gone through, maybe a conversational element. Show me what the culture looks like. Do you have positions in a specific location? So the branding is super important, but the experience is really important. And I think that's where it really thrives. So with that being said, Jim, if you want to dive into a couple of submitted examples, we can talk through some strengths and maybe some areas of improvement. That's not a problem.
Yeah, all good. I thought I'd start off with, I'd say, the strongest in terms of structure and content. So I picked out Qualtrics from the submissions. What I recognize straight away is I recognize it's a Phenom provider. So this is being built by Phenom. I can see that from the search and the chatbot, which we'll get into a little bit later. What was interesting is they've actually kept the career site on the corporate domain, for reasons being maybe it was domain authority or something like that. I think they probably used what we call like a reverse proxy to keep a career site that's built on another platform connected to the main corporate site, which obviously you can see over here. I find often that when if I put myself in the candidate's shoes of like clicking the logo to get back to, so if I'm scrolling through a site, clicking the logo isn't necessarily where I want to go as a candidate. I'm not looking to buy products or look into solutions. I just want to stay on the career side. So that's something I try to sort of tempt customers, prospects away from when the thinking of doing that. So that was my first thought with this. But I think first impressions is I really love the photography and the tone of voice. Like I think the employer brand is really sharp. The sort of the messaging throughout the page. So obviously the look and feel of a career site, and I've touched on a few things like speed and performance, which I'll touch on more lately, because I've obviously come from an employer branding agency. I love employer branding. Our CEO Brian Adams, he's a thought leader in that respect. So I've grew up in the last 2 decades of understanding what a good employer brand looks like, and I think they've done a great job on bringing this to life. I think in some areas where from a UI perspective it's a little bit tricky to read, things are all over the place a little bit, but there's lots of great content in there if you've got the patience to dig through that. I mentioned digestible content earlier. I think if you use tools like Hemingway app as an example, really long sentences, people will just skim and skip. So if you're able to break up paragraphs and use headings and keep the candidate engaged, that's where they'll obviously dive deeper and immerse themselves in that content. But as I say, they've got lots of great content in here. So if we go into, there's a few things here. I didn't understand what the sign up meant. I think this might be the same thing. But yeah, just as I click in that into the nav, I wasn't too sure what that meant. So I'll probably suggest maybe better labels from a call to action point of view, just to make sure it's more clear. Again, I love this photography and the use of graphics and stuff. And I think there's probably an opportunity for them to make more from a motion perspective, because the site is quite static. As I scroll through the page, there's not much movement throughout. It's quite blocky and templated in that respect. I'll jump into the search and then we'll probably look at some of the other pages. So when I go to the search section, again, following through with that photography, I think I would probably suggest that from a search perspective, we take them straight to the search versus we've got a search bar here and we've got the search here as well. So from a UI point of view, I think it's a little bit disjointed because of a search here, it's just going to reload this page. But I think they've got this faceted search here, so we can filter by categories and countries, obviously create job alerts based on that filter. But I thought this feels like it's in the wrong place, and the placeholders difficult to read, so it's not great for accessibility. So it's not clear that this is a keyword search, that I could do something like global head as a role. So keeping those search filters together would be something I'd look at from a UI point of view. The jobs themselves, I think I've noticed the speed of the site and the load of it is quite, what's the word? It's quite jagged. It moves quite a lot. Just on that point, I did do a quick page speed review of the job page that we're looking at. First of all, it fails Core Web Vitals, so that's a massive SEO ranking factor in both desktop and mobile. But the key things here is just the speed, accessibility, best practice, and SEO. So it's really, really painful to load. It's taken 14.2 seconds to load every single asset within this actual page. If you want to know a little bit more about the speed and performance and the importance of it for career sites, I'd suggest that we could put this in the chat. Check out our gp.happydance, which was a recent campaign of ours. Obviously, Jem, you are a sponsor of ours in this, is where we ranked career sites based on speed and performance and SEO, all of those things that Google Insights rank for. So you can see, obviously, a lot of the sites that were in this race obviously on Happy Dance platforms. If you look at the ones that obviously failed, you'll see probably the likes of Radiancy, Phenom, Icems, and Success Factors. They don't perform as well when it comes to speed and performance. Again, it's really important you're using this tool to understand, you shouldn't be failing accessibility for whatever reason. The simple things from an SEO perspective that you can quickly fix, but performance of how quickly pages load, it's just going to hit your SEO. A lot of it's down to things like imagery. might be loading a JPEG versus like newer file types like WebP as an example. So just little things there that you can really speed up the performance of these pages. But yeah, as I say, just coming back to this job, obviously we've got all the job description, and that's it. It sort of stops there. I don't think I dug into too many examples of ours, but this is probably the opportunity to enrich this page. Like, what's it like to work in this team? Is there any employee stories? What's the location like? Is it remote? What's the benefits for this specific job? It's like they've just pulled a job in from the ATS and not decided to enrich it. In fact, I'll show you a really quick example. Maybe I'll just pull up Grab. So if we just look at one of their jobs, we've got a senior engineer, we've got some video. This is obviously what we pulled in via the ATS. And then we've got meet the team, application process, and talent community. Like, every job will be slightly different on this, depending on what team and location it sits in. But that would be the opportunity to enrich just your bullet listed job description. As I dive a little bit deeper, obviously, you can apply through the chatbot, I believe. Did have a little play with the chatbot a little bit earlier. I think the chatbot needs to be trained on specific things. I don't think it fully understands all of the content within the career site. So it's been trained on process and how to apply. There was a few things where it just didn't understand what jobs were available in what countries. So yeah, just a strange experience from a chatbot perspective. Vince, you were playing with this as well yourself, weren't you? What did you find with the chatbot?
Yeah, we actually just received a question from Laura about chatbots. So chatbots can be useful, particularly for high volume roles. The issue with chatbots is they're highly dependent on the programming behind them. So there has to be an individual programming the chatbot to answer or respond to specific questions or queries. And often that's a full-time job, which a lot of organizations can't either afford or don't have somebody to actually like sort of man the ship, if you will. In this particular example with Qualtrics, I just went through on a personal level. I'm a solutions consultant here at GEM. I said, do you have any solution consultants positions? It said no, but tell me more. Where do you want to work? I'm a remote employee. It immediately just gave me no options. So as a candidate, if the chatbot tells me no, there's nothing for you, I immediately leave the site. Whereas with a conversational system like HappyDance provides, I could enter information such as, I'm a remote employee, I care about culture, show me that information, as opposed to just getting immediately rejected or denied because of a technological deficiency. So the long and short of it is chatbots can be helpful if they're simplistic, high volume roles. However, if you have maybe a higher level type of candidate or a more professional services or a professional experience oriented candidate, they're only as good as the programming, and candidly, a lot of organizations just don't have the time to program.
Yeah, I think the beauty of the conversational nav as well is we can pull out what the queries are being asked, what are the questions, and what were the responses? Were the responses accurate? So it's not necessarily a case of looking at what the most sort of common question was, but it's looking for the gaps of content. So where are you not hitting the mark? Where were you unable to give them sort of the insight into what they're looking for? That's where like the conversational nav will help customers then from a strategic perspective, obviously looking at analytics and data as well, to be able to decide how to or what to do next from a content piece.
Yeah. Jim, we actually got a question about SEO from Marvin. How does the career site impact SEO, or what are some tips and tricks in order to get page relevance and to make sure that when folks are searching, we absolutely get displayed?
Great question. So there's some basics in there, such as like your meta titles and descriptions. I always talk a lot about things like schema code. So when you're wrapping content from like FAQs as an example, I think FAQs is a great piece of content to add on your site. Really now the way Google have moved with the likes of AI mode. If you think about Google is just questions, answers. You ask Google a question, it gives you an answer. That's how you should create your content. Answer questions, put the question in an FAQ accordion, and then answer that question. That gives you more opportunity to appear in things like rich snippets on homepage. I think I'll give you a quick example as well. Bit of a strategy that we suggested to General Motors was trying to compete when it comes to jobs is really difficult, because there's billions of jobs that all are very similar, and then you're competing against the likes of Indeed, Glassdoor, and many more. And then the other challenge that you have is that your jobs just aren't ranking in Google because they don't live long enough. It's ultimately the job that you want to be found in Google. Google's now your biggest competitor as well, because you have Google for Jobs. So they want to keep the candidate on Google. They don't want to take you to your career site. That's why they have AI mode. They're trying to give you all the answers without you going to the actual site itself. But what I found with career sites where customers are come to us and says, why doesn't this job rank? It's because it doesn't live long enough. It's pushed into the ATS. Obviously, a few minutes later, it's on your career site, and then the role is filled and it's gone. So a strategy that I tend to talk to customers a lot about is these evergreen landing pages, these persona pages, where you can talk about a specific job in a specific area and write content all about that specific thing in terms of that persona. So think about, firstly, the search intent. What are they looking for? So is it production and skilled trade jobs in Spring Hill, as an example? Why that? Well, maybe the data has told us that. Maybe they've looked at analytics. They're hard to fill roles. They're just not appearing in Google. So if they start with that from an SEO perspective, as looking at from a keyword point of view, that's the keywords we want to be known for and rank for, and then start to weave in those keywords within this content. So join our Spring Hill team. And then down here, it's just targeted that persona. They're weaving in those keywords, they're showing those jobs, talking about the benefits. They've got talent community, they've got video. It's a really rich, engaging page. So when we search for this page, Google will always give you different results, so fingers crossed this works. Yeah, there you go. So Google are number one for that search term. Their team page has now become more relevant. They weren't relevant because they weren't visible, so they were fighting against the likes of Indeed and LinkedIn. This is what I mean by rich snippets. So using schema code within markup under the hood in the HTML to be able to get visibility within these types of areas that will get you on page one of Google. So from an SEO point of view, there is code. There's obviously thinking about meta tags, descriptions, much more in there. From Open Graph and stuff like this, but yeah, it's all about content. Google and where it's moving with AI in its algorithms right now is about authentic, useful content. If you're just creating content for content's sake, or it doesn't resonate and it's not emotional, it's just not going to hit the mark. So creating persona landing pages like this within your career site, I think, is a great SEO tactic. Hope that answers your question. Might have been a bit long-winded there, but I do get a bit passionate about these things. Just coming back to Qualtrics, Vince, any other questions before, or do you want me to carry on?
There was actually a follow-up question concerning the impact of AI with SEO. I added my 2 cents there. AI can certainly help you from a content creation perspective. Do we have incredible job descriptions? Do we have impactful employment brand? Do we have rich snippets, to your point, Jim, that we put onto the page? That's one aspect, but the other aspect is the provider of this system. Do we have good load speeds? Do we have quality pages that Google actually wants to present? If you don't have pages that are quick, if you don't have pages that Google feels have rich content, no AI is going to just bump you to the top of the list. Google's going to pick up and say, hey, listen, we need quality content. We need fast load times. That's where we want to send our users. Jim, correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, you're absolutely spot on. I think we've obviously created tools ourselves, like Job Description Genie, which can help rewrite job descriptions using our give and get employee brand philosophy framework. We've got AI advisor tools within our CMS system to help give them ideas about employee stories and make sure that their brand, their tone of voice is on brand. AI is so useful, but you have to add a bit of you have to humanize your content as well. It has to be AI is just is just regurgitating content that already exists. So you have to make it unique, you have to make it useful, and that's when the likes of Google AI and ChatGPT and all of these others are going to be able to find your content. It has to be, yeah, you've got to have a great coded site. It's got a performance and speed and all that kind of stuff, the structure of the code with no errors and things like that. That will help avoid getting dismissed by those AI bots. Cool. Okay, just a few other bits on this one before I move on to some other examples. Again, and I thought Qualtrics again had really great structure and lots of great content. There's a few examples you can see here, like page speed is quite slow here. Again, consistency with the use of photography, some perks around what it's like to work, and benefits, what it's like to work in Dublin. You can go and see all of those benefits. Where else have we got? Video. I would tend to lead with video. I think it's really engaging, makes the candidate want to keep within the page. I love the fact they've got all of the D&I sort of the community groups and all that kind of stuff down here. What else did I pick up on? Oh, the resources. Let me go into here. So they've got this blog section where I thought this was a bit of a sort of the reason why I talk about not having a careers page or career site within your corporate domain. So I've gone from the careers page as thinking I'm going to go to the careers blog, which I have done, but now I've just lost the career site structure. Like how do I get back? Where was the early career? Like obviously I can click back, but you understand what I'm saying. It's like the user journey has been taken somewhere else. I'm not within the career site. I was trying to read some of these blogs, but obviously they've got some issues from a loading perspective there. So some issues with their blog that they might want to look at. But again, this is great content when it's in the career site. I think what I see within here, again, from an SEO perspective, is interlinking content, so internal linking. So look for specific keywords like, I don't know, technical account managers. Like, is there a landing page for that? Could that link to a job search? Like, look for opportunities to be able to link this content. 3 or 4 links, maybe 5 at most within a page that keeps the candidate moving, keeps them moving to the next page. But it's also great for SEO for like Google's robots to be able to crawl your content and find that content easier. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Qualtrics. Again, really I love the look and feel from a photography perspective. I think they've got great content. I think it just needs a little bit of finesse, making this type of stuff. Well, is that careers? Yeah, we're in students now. Making it a bit more digestible, and speed and performance. It's really lagging, and yeah, some of the features in terms of the job descriptions are quite basic. They're not enriched. The chatbot, like labels on things. Yeah, I think there's some things to improve on there. But as I say, out of the picks that we're looking at for the rest of this session, it's probably the best. I'm going to move on to some of the other examples. These are obviously different in the fact that they're not necessarily career sites; they're more career pages. So, not to be too critical of these, I guess it feels like they're at the beginning stages of considering maybe how do they build out what they've got from a page perspective into more of a careers section, or even a dedicated site, which I'd highly recommend. Again, I'm not a huge fan of saying join us, it's not really a proposition. Like, what is their why? What's their purpose? You know, why would I come to join us? I think says change largely. I don't think that's their purpose, but it's lead with a proposition and an invite. Like, the invite is join us, but the proposition is like, what are you trying to do? Like, is it for the good of something? So there's impactful work no matter the fields, and then it's just quite texty. Doesn't really, like, this big image here, a little bit blurry, not great quality, but it lacks imagery. As I scroll down this page, then it's quite text heavy. As you can see, got some credibility with Glassdoor here, but if we go into the jobs, this is where, like, the candidate's experience just completely falls apart. even worse, it's you're taking them to a job listings page with no jobs. There are jobs, but you have to actually click search, and then the actual jobs section magically shows us lots of opportunities. And again, it's hatched from all of their content that you saw on the other on this landing page over here. I don't feel any of the brand coming through. If I did for some reason manage to find this job on Google, even though it hasn't got really a search for any URL, I've not looked at the codes to see if it would be found or whether it's search friendly. I don't really find anything from a careers perspective. When I click on the logo, it just takes me to the corporate website, and then I'm having to find where is the careers page. Like, is there a careers link? No, who we are. Often you find these types of sites, they put the careers link in the footer. No, can't find the careers section. So that for me would be like thinking about the experience of the candidates. I would think about making the landing page a little bit more engaging from a content perspective, break that content down into digestible chunks, a bit like what I showed you with National Grid. So like there's a section, a bit of an introduction, explore jobs, a bit more about like communities, explore the life at, the teams, like there's some testimonials and great video here, the jobs themselves, and then what's more like early careers and so on and so forth. So it's that sort of anatomy on the page, the architecture of the page. It needs thinking about designing, thinking about how you keep the candidate moving through that page and getting a feel for what the company's all about. But yeah, it's very, very, very basic. It's wave a magic wand, you'd at least have the jobs on this page all branded, being able to see the job descriptions on this page itself.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually met with this organization yesterday to talk about CRM functionality and candidate re-engagement, but we did talk about CareerSite. And I think the net out of this, and to Jim's points, this is it's a basic page, but there's really no inspiring call to actions. Like looking at some of the examples that Jim has given, whether it's Natural Grid or whether it's General Motors or Domino's. What is it like to work in this function? What are our value propositions? What is inspiring me to actually be interested and prompting me to a call to action? Whether it's a formal application or joining a talent community, these sorts of sites, while they do present information, there's not enough spoon feeding. We need to tell people, we need to inspire people. That's what a good career site should do. These sorts of career sites, when I have to click around and I have to find my own list and enter my own keywords and do a lot of research on my own, that's making me work for you before I work for you. And a lot of times candidates, they get turned off by that. They don't actually submit applications or continue to explore. So ultimately, that's what we want to do, is more spoon feeding of relevant information.
Yeah, it feels like they've got like some decent content within the corporate side of it, like the About Us. They've got like what was the example there? Sort of testimony, but at least they've got faces of people. So where down here it said, join our team of passionate dreamers, helpers, and healers. Like bring some photography into the fold at least, or video, and show us why are they passionate about these things. Like tell those stories, like the storytelling aspect of it. There's just very little there, and as you say, like those call to actions, it's literally just view our positions, and we're taking them to a job section that didn't show any jobs unless you actually knew to click search.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call out, Jim. I mean, I've been selling career sites for 20 years now. And a lot of times you'll work with organizations that have these amazing, beautiful corporate websites, our About Us, our story, rich content, videos. And then you'll get to view our jobs, and it's just a list of positions, but nothing specific about working at the organization or nothing specific about the departments. I understand marketing is typically stretched thin, especially when it comes to TA, but it's incredibly important to have that messaging there.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, because obviously, I guess some of the examples I've shown you, the large organizations, and they're probably like a TA team of 2 people sometimes. And for them to be able to go to the marketing team and say, we need these pages updating on our careers pages, and then the marketing team saying, really sorry, but we've got a backlog of doing all of these updates, these corporate pages, like you're last on our list. That was sort of the the common occurrence of what I was hearing from listening to prospects of why they need a dedicated career site. They needed their own control to be able to make those changes themselves. So they're probably limited by whoever's looking after the rest of this site, which probably the corporate side feels more of a priority. For whatever reason, they don't make the career site as much as a priority. Having said that, they probably don't have the expertise and understanding of what is important from a content perspective in terms of the structure and the type of content blocks that they would need to bring an employer brand to life. How much have we got? We've got about 10-15 minutes. I'll dive into some of the other examples if we've got time. Just yeah, again, these were career landing pages on corporate sites as well. So just as a candidate, yeah, as soon as I clicked on view roles, I'm taken to the ATS to search for roles. Again, lacking in sort of branding, no sort of friendly URLs, similar to the previous one where it would be difficult to, I think, for these types of pages to rank. I think the application actual interface looks pretty decent, but yeah, it's just that disconnect from jumping from one domain to the other. So yeah, having the jobs, at least the jobs listing, have the jobs listing within the page, and if you take the candidate away to the ATS to apply, it's better than nothing, I guess. But yeah, then it's, so I think what I found with this site is it felt quite stocky from a photography perspective, so it didn't feel authentic. I might be wrong there, but it just didn't feel like this really who this company are. So when I was flicking through the employee perks, we were looking at this earlier, weren't we, Vince? Is like, here's USA, here's Europe, here's India. Oh, it's the same guy. It's like, it just feels like stock photography is just being used as a gap within the page in the UI. It's like, let's use the real people from those locations and showcase those perks. They talk about like being remote first, although that guy looks like he's in the office because he's suited and booted and stuff. Health benefits, pay time off, maybe show, them out with their family, learning and development, whatever that may be, giving back to the community. Like, use photography and video that says what you say versus this type of stock photography. So that would be my suggestion for improvements here. Again, this just feels like stock photography, the typical D&I. This looks quite polished, actually. I don't think I checked out this video. I checked that out a little bit later to see if actually it didn't meet. They might say, yeah, that is our photography, that's definitely us. Then kudos for creating some high polished stuff, but it doesn't feel authentic to me. We get down to some recruiting process. So they haven't really talked about like what it's like to work. They've got the perks, they've got the benefits, a bit of D&I. They don't talk about like the teams and the locations. I would probably start there before you get into like the process of hiring. Maybe that's a little bit later. Okay, I found what I'm interested in. What's the next step? So it feels like this has come a little bit early in the journey. This type of stuff I keep on like job description pages or a specific how we hire page in itself. Maybe show imagery or video of the actual of that thing happening. It might be one of these examples, or maybe another site I saw today, but I've seen a great video of them actually explaining the actual interview process as well. Onboarding experience, great, but really didn't show me anything there, apart from two guys saying hello, welcome to the company. This is where I thought, oh, it seems to be picking up now. So I've got a little bit of some transitions and movements, like more life hack content. Takes us to our company, and I've sort of lost my way with the career site now. I'm not too sure where to get back. Yeah, just really long-winded, not sure what that's about. Yeah, let's get back to the careers page. So yeah, it felt like I was starting to see behind the scenes of what it's like to work there. Large teams, looks like, they out and about, having, not just sitting behind desks and having a work-life balance, all that kind of stuff as well. Yeah, so that's just, I guess, my overall thoughts on this was photography, showcase like what it's actually like to work there, or like just align your imagery to your content and keep your jobs listing within the actual career site as well. I think I'll skip over this one. I'm conscious of time. This one was probably the last one I'll show, but this was literally this. When it comes to a career site, it's not a career site, it's just a jobs listing. So everything we've talked about today, this doesn't really give anything from like what it's like to work within this organization. Having said that, so what I mean by that is like it starts with the jobs listings. Here are the jobs. It's got a little bit about like why choose them, and then 3 frequently asked questions, and then that is it. So when I go to search jobs, it just takes me to the top of the page again. It was difficult to actually search jobs. I couldn't see any way to sort of filter. Yeah, so there's nowhere I can like sort of trim this list down and say like, specific job titles or skills. Can I search via a skill? There's no way to do that. I've got to read through a massive list of all those that job listing. I come to the job description. Very, very basic. The apply doesn't take me away to the ATS, but it loads it in a modal. I don't know if that's, is that secure? It's not giving me any confidence there, because usually like a modal as such like this, it looks like some form of iframe. So be a bit wary of applying in case it's not like, has it got an SSL? Is it a secure page? I'd imagine it does, but just being a little bit wary there. And when I was looking at these links, if I click on California, where's that going to take me to? Is this jobs listing? I'm not too sure. It feels like a blog engine. They've tried to manipulate a blog engine to be able to build out a careers section or a careers page. So just come down back to where we were here. Yeah, again, it's just everything we talked about earlier. It's lacking that sort of humanistic part of it with like people and stuff. We've got like one photo at the very top of the page, no imagery in the job descriptions, nothing related to this imagery. What's the best way to contact you? Oh, what happened there? Yeah, that accordion looks like it was broke there, just flood me to the top of the page. So like are these questions the candidates are actually asking? I usually say to customers and prospects when I talk about things like FAQ accordions on landing pages is obviously I talked about appearing in rich snippets on the page one at Google, but it can also save your hiring managers time as well. So think about the questions that candidates tend to ask when they go through the process after they've applied. Why can't you answer those questions within your career site on those job pages or in team landing pages or location pages? Gather those questions, then go and work within your organization and ask employees what are the answers to these questions, and just put them on your career site, because they're going to give the candidate the answers that they're looking for, and then it's really useful for SEO, and it saves your hiring managers time to having to answer those questions later on. Again, what I said before, like with likes of Google and the way Google AI mode is looking right now, it's all about questions and answers, authentic, emotional content. It's like, can I work part-time as a parent of 3 children? Do you have flexible hours? Like, is there flexible working? Like, think about all the things that like you offer as an organization, turn them into questions and create answers, and then build out content and landing pages about those specific themes. So if I guess I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole with this specific one on accordions, but it's just another example of where, there's very little content in here. There's you've started something, you could actually add a lot more to this and give more value. How are we doing for time, Vince? We all good?
We're doing good. We've got about 9 minutes left. We haven't had a ton of new questions come through the chat. We did get a few requests for feedback after the call. And if you're looking at the chat, I've included my email as well as Jim's email. So if you have specific questions for us, if you'd like us to do some diagnostics or provide you with any feedback on your existing site, we're happy to do so. We're also happy to set up one-on-one sessions about where you're at potentially versus where it is that you could go. And it looks like Jim is loading up an intake form as well. So if it's easier for you to use this form, I'll turn it over to Jim to explain that process as well.
Yeah, so if you're interested in an actual audit of your career site, you know, it's not just myself who's quite critical or passionate about these things on websites and looking under the hood. Like our team of strategists and data analysts and developers, they all get involved. And obviously we've got lots of great tools like Google PageSpeed Insights as an example. All of those types of things can feed into the audit to give you some insights and guidance, a little bit like what we've done today. So if you sort of missed out on today and in terms of getting your website critiqued, but you'd like a much deeper dive, then yeah, I'll put this link in the chat over here. I can find the chat. I think it's about, this is it. Is that the right chat there, Vince?
I will throw that in.
Yeah, that's updated. Sorry.
There we go. Yeah, so for those of you that do want an audit, you know, have us take a look, maybe do some analysis for you, go ahead and submit a request there and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Sorry for the double post there, but I just want to thank everybody. I know we've had a pretty large audience today, so thank you very, very much for allowing us to walk you through some examples of what's possible and a little bit of pros and cons on current state for those of you. With that being said, I know the majority of us work in recruiting, so if we can give you 7 minutes back in your day, that's a win for everybody. But if there aren't any further questions, on behalf of Jem and Happy Dance, just thank you so very much for taking some time, and you know, hopefully we can work together in the future.
Thanks all. Thanks, Vince. Good to see you.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.